Welcome back to the Marketing Boost. My name's Leon. Today we have a returning guest. This is the first episode of the year. It is Zac Brown from GiveKit, formerly Nonprofits HQ.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me back on the show, Leon. It's always a great time chatting with you and talking about all things marketing.
And we talk a lot. I've helped you kind of go through some of this transition. So the first question I want to ask is, why the rebrand? You guys went from an objectively good name in many ways, especially for SEO and for marketing, to something that I think is a good name, but also has a little bit more push on having to describe it. So you went from Nonprofits HQ to GiveKit. Like, what was the impetus and thought around that for, especially a marketing perspective?
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked about like various different aspects of this off the show and like throughout, right? You're one of our trusted advisors. But, we knew from the beginning, from day one, when we came up with Nonprofits HQ, we were going to have to change it, right? We knew that it was a brand that, while it logically described what we're doing, the headquarters of your nonprofit, Nonprofits HQ. What we realized was it's really hard to say, like just simply putting it, it's really hard to say, Nonprofits HQ, right? All of these really hard letters that are complex in the brain, complex to say verbally. And then when you go to search it, right, you can't remember what it is. A lot of our customers were like, how's nonprofit? Like, oh, I think they mean Nonprofits HQ, right? And then so if that's how they're remembering what our brand is, what our name is, if they were to search for us, or if they were to, tell somebody what they're using, word of mouth is a big way that we spread and spread awareness in our industry. One organization, that's how we launched in Little Rock, right? One little organization started using us. They told others, they signed on, and that's how it worked. But the challenge was they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm using Nonprofit HQ. And then they would go and Google nonprofit, right? HQ, and they wouldn't find anything, or they would end up on a competitor's website, right? The complete opposite of what you want with a brand. So we knew from the beginning we were going to have to change it. But we didn't know, early on, we didn't want to put the time and energy into a branding, right? We needed to build something. We needed to prove we even had a market before we spent all of this time and effort into that. But as we started growing, as we started scaling the product, getting steady growth, significant revenue in, we realized it's time to be a little bit more mature about what we're doing, about how we're talking about it. And when we were brainstorming different names and thinking through that process, one of the things that is kind of the lead into our platform, GiveKit does mostly everything that you need for your organization, right? And it does it damn well. And I'm a little biased in that, right? But it does it damn well. But one of the lead-ins, our customers are never looking for a thing to do all of this stuff for their organization. The one thing that organizations look for from the very beginning, I just started a nonprofit, to I'm a $50 million, $100 million a year organization, funding. How do I pay for all my stuff? How do I raise money to support my mission, to cover these costs, right? That's always been the lead in for all of the customers that we have on the platform. They were looking for fundraising. That was easy. And then there's all this other stuff that integrates that they use as well. And
I want to interrupt you a little bit and back up to one part that I thought was really interesting, because founders and business owners often get caught up in the name, the branding, and you often see that as a serial problem for folks. They cannot choose a name. They don't really lean into one branding. They don't do that. Why was it such a get to maturity for you guys, get a product? What did you have experience in that background? Did you see the failures of other? Was it a mentor that told you to launch and then figure it out?
And this is where you're fishing for a plug, a nice little compliment to your marketing services.
Maybe a little.
But yeah, I would say it was kind of a combination of things like that. And the first thing was neither of us were creatives, right? Alberto was pretty creative and
Alberto's your co-founder, CTO. COO, sorry.
And one of those CO letters.
Yes.
But neither of us were graphic designers, neither of us were marketers, right? And so we didn't care about that at the time, right? We needed to build a product. We were both very technical. We wanted to build a product, but also like you said, people get hung up on those little details. And the problem is we could get stuck on something we don't know and try to perfect it and spend a bunch of energy and time and money on something to get it perfected that's going to block us from moving forward. Or we can just start building, right? Start talking to our ideal customers, start building in an area that we do know well, and then we can move forward there and fill in the gaps later. That was logical for us. That's what made sense. And then talking to different mentors like yourself and, like Franklin and other folks around, what we have to do, we knew that branding was going to be important, but we also knew that it wasn't as important right now. We can come up with this brand, we can get our first 200 customers, first 500 customers, and it's still very inexpensive to rebrand, right? It's still, you're not going to destroy a bunch of trust. You're not going to lose, you'll have some churn with any rebrand, right? But it's not going to be as dangerous or expensive to rebrand now than say if we were a Samsung and we're like, we want to change our name from Samsung, right? Much harder.
Very fair. And I think a lot of people, to your point, get caught up in it's going to cost me a lot of money. It's going to cost me loss in SEO and any.
But the thing about that, when it does cost you a lot of money in SEO, it's because you've built this brand that is generating significant revenue and you can pay for it. Like, it's okay.
It is fair. And I think that the story that I love to hear from you is build something, get people marketed. And actually, marketing is not just branding. Like, branding is important, and I can hear it through the through line, but it's also not like the key part. Like, I think, and obviously this is my bias, is get the customers, and the marketing might be unscalable things, talking to folks. I know that you went to conferences, actually went to organizations, donated time, and
we were the things that we were doing initially were so not sustainable. Like, when an organization that I wanted to work with didn't answer me, I went to their office and spent a day bugging the hell out of them, understanding their processes and seeing what they were doing.
That is that guerrilla marketing, though, and I think people get marketing confused with ads and pretty creative and all of that. But marketing, especially early on for any startup, for any company that's getting started, is those unscalable like actions there.
And the point there is, I spent an entire day at this one organization, right? Learned a lot about their pain points, how they operate. They ended up becoming one of our beta testers. We ended up building with them, and then they're a paid customer on the platform, right? But that got us a lot further than sitting in Canva and figuring out what a logo would be or what a sexier color scheme would be.
100%, and I think that's also why you have success now. The rebrand wasn't scary to you. What was the timeline from that? I know we've talked about it for a long time, and I always call it 6 to 8 months. But what was that, and what was the first catalyst to really get you going?
Yeah. So you can do, I would argue there's no proper way to do a rebrand, right? And that's probably because the way we did it would probably be considered very improper, right? One of the things that I'm very biased towards action. I want to get things done. I want to get things done quickly. I don't want to spend time on all of these long processes and all of these buy-ins and decisions and things like that, right? If we were a much larger brand, we would absolutely have to, right? If we're talking about, billions of dollars worth of brand recognition, I'm not going to just change that on the fly, but we're not. And so our timeline from seriously considering it to getting our new logo to rolling out the new brand was about 2 weeks.
That is lightning fast.
Absolutely. And it is because it's not just putting a new logo. Yeah. Well, because you're a marketer, right? You've done these brand transitions before. Yes. You know kind of the intricate details that go into these processes. So 2 weeks, we killed ourselves for 2 weeks, right? But we got it done. And, it's not just changing out a logo. We had it easier because we used our same brand colors. We just introduced one shade of blue, right? Okay. We used the same brand colors, so a lot of the stuff wasn't working. You guys had been working on our marketing website ahead of that, right? So as part of that launch, we relaunched the new marketing website, but that wasn't done in 2 weeks, right?
It took a little longer, but the logo put in there. The pieces that I'm thinking too is what were all the pieces there for you guys?
And so it's more than just the visual stuff, copy on websites, it's logos across dashboards, it's making our logos that scale correctly on desktop, scale correctly on mobile, right? It's DNS, lots of infrastructure changes. So anything that's on, customer.nonprofitshq.org needs to now be customer.givekit.org, but it also still needs to work right previously. So you don't have a lot of broken links to donations donation pages, logins, shift assignments, all these different functionalities. So a lot of DNS configuration, a lot of infrastructure changes there. We also needed to care about our mobile apps, right? You can't just push a button and then all your mobile app is changed. There's a review process. And if you use a word like we're the best toolkit for nonprofits, they reject it because we can't claim we're the best without their performance data. And all these different things had to kind of go into that. And when I first was talking to Alberto, and we work really well together because I will just, let's get shit done. Let's move quickly. We'll break stuff along the way. If we break something important, we can fix it later, right? And Alberto's more like, well, shouldn't we think about this a little bit more? Shouldn't we be a little more intentional, put a little more thought into what we're doing? And so it balances well. So when I told him that I want this done, he's like, yeah, we can put together a plan. And then I want this done in 2 weeks. He was like, whoa, is this something that, one, we can pull off in 2 weeks, and two, we should pull off in 2 weeks, right? It's a crazy fast timeline, lots of moving pieces.
100%. And most rebrands they're either softer, they're not total name changes. You guys went from one name to another name. I heard copy changes. Was there a significant amount of copy that actually changed messaging, or was it more soft messaging around what you already did?
It was more soft messaging, and it was like changing the tone to this new GiveKit brand. What's the GiveKit voice, right? So it was like the meat of the copy was still there, the core of what it was saying, and it was just softening and changing that message in places. Was most of that.
Was some AI writing? What's your take on that part? Did you guys have Claude do it? Gemini? How did you go through those copy changes, or was it you writing it?
If you're, I mean, you've read my text messages. I didn't write that copy, right? If you are writing copy by yourself, physically writing from nothing to something, you're insane today. I don't, no way. AI is an amazing assistant, right? An amazing tool to help you get the base of it, add your human touch, edit it for flavor, tone, consistency, take those M dashes out of your content, right? And put it together. But, we're able to, with a tool like Claude is what we use, we're able to rewrite and clean up the copy across the website, across the dashboard, all of the places where we had copy that's presented to customers, donation pages, emails. We're able to do all of that in that 2 week span, right? Because we're not sitting there and we're starting with a clean slate and we're like, okay, this is our brand voice, right? You basically develop what your brand voice is, provide samples of that, provide that to your AI, and then say, hey, fix this to match our new brand voice, our new direction, the new messaging that we care about. And then you do some edits, right? So you do it once and then you repeat it throughout the rest of that process.
I like that, and I also think you have that experience too with those nonprofits. You know what they want to hear. You went and talked to them. I think that's a key part of the marketing that you guys did, and realized that, one, people mispronounce your name, people misspell it. I think you had a common name.
So we had an email. I got an email from a Nigerian prince, okay, that loved our product and he wanted to invest. It was like $50 billion and he didn't want any equity in return, right?
That was
he
a
just
great deal.
really supported what we were doing. And he wanted to invest in nonprofit, capital N, capital P, H-Q, right? So even when the scammers can't get your name right, you know that you're too complex.
Did you go and do any focus groups or anything with the new name? How did you make that transition? Right now I see on the website it says GiveKit, formerly Nonprofits HQ. Was there a big messaging push? How did you handle it with customers, especially in an industry that I suspect skews a little bit older, skews a little less technologically advanced? How do you handle those transitions and those pushbacks? So
the first thing I'll touch on that is this idea that it does still skew older and skew less technologically advanced, right? As the generations are transitioning and people are kind of moving on to retirement or, wherever, you are getting younger people in those roles. You are getting people that kind of grew up more with technology or have more exposure to that. But it's still not something that, it's an industry that's still very adverse to change, right? Especially complete change very rapidly. And so we knew we had to address that and we knew we had to account for that. So our customers knew about the rebrand ahead of time. We were like, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it, right? It's the complete fundraising toolkit for nonprofits, GiveKit. This is why we're doing it. This is what our logos look like. This is what the domains will change to. No, you don't have to worry about broken links. We'll handle the transition. You don't have to do anything. Functionality, pricing, your account data, it all stays the same. We're the same team. We're the same people. It's the same product. It's just a cleaner, more focused brand, a cleaner, more focused name. And so we sent out messaging to our customers. Some of our customers, I also texted directly. I'm like, hey, this is what we're thinking about. What are your initial thoughts, right? I want to know 3 things that you like about it and 3 things that you don't like about it.
Ooh, I really like that, the forcing function of, hey, tell me what you don't like, because you can get, especially from friends, mentors, and customers, a more positive tinge to everything. And when you ask them for the negative, it's like an okay to just kind of like nitpick, essentially.
One of the things I hate the most, and it internally on our team as well, right? And I'm sure my team hates this about me, but one of the things I hate the most is when we're asking for feedback or looking at something and the answer is it looks great. It never just looks great. There's always something that rubs you wrong visually, or that feels off, or that, nothing ever just looks great. And that's why I force that. I want 3 things that you like, because people are often hesitant to just jump into things that they hate. You put something in front of me, you're going to get my very unfiltered, very honest opinion, right?
That's a rare thing.
And so, but if you soften that with 3 things they like, they feel a safe environment, they feel it's more comfortable, and then you get more honest dislikes, things that they don't like. Is it colors? One of our advisors hates our new logo. She loves the new color, like the layout, she loves the new name, she hates the new logo, right? And we need to hear that information, because everything that we do needs to contribute to one of 3 things, one or more of 3 things, right? It needs to contribute to forward progress of our people, our products, or our company. If it doesn't contribute to one of those, then we don't need to be doing it. And we sure as hell don't need to be doing something that does the opposite of forward progress in those areas.
So the question there is essentially around everybody and their dog, and I love to say this, everyone and their dog has an opinion.
Absolutely.
Just constantly. But how did you filter that mentor's advice on I hate your logo? Like, it could come at a moment where you go, man, maybe this isn't the right decision. How did you navigate that?
So what I'm going to tell you is every decision that we make as a startup, every decision that I've made as a CEO has been, this is either going to be the right decision and move us forward, or we're going to fall on our asses here, right? Those are the options.
Have you heard about the Amazon leadership method, the one-way door, two-way door thing? So essentially, if you have a one-way door, once you close that door, it's never being opened again. Essentially, like the AI commercial during the Super Bowl, that's a one-way door. Now everyone thinks Ring is a surveillance state. There's no going back from that. But then there's a two-way door where they integrate a new technology and they go, oh, it's just not really working out. Let's roll back that feature. So in kind of that method, it sounds like you're thinking of most of your decisions as almost like non-destructive editing. You can backtrack and figure out.
You can always fix something if you break it.
Okay.
Mostly, like if you open a SQL terminal on production and you destroy. Well, I mean, you can actually restore that data too. It's just a big pain and opens like so many security and procedural questions, right? But essentially it's that everything that we do, we're either going to break it and fix it, or it's going to be amazing and we're going to keep going with it, right? But we also have to be open to that. Right? We have an idea, sounds great. If it flops, it flops. We need to recognize that. We need to own that we created something that flops and pivot.
Did you have that expectation? Have that expectation of like, hey, if this flopped, we were going to go back to the previous branding, or what? And so
that's the challenge, right? And there's a couple of decisions. Around like the way the organization or the way the company works in terms of how we process transactions and things like that. There's a couple things that don't, once you go there, you don't come back.
That is the one-way door.
That is the one-way door, no matter how you look at it. And so you just try to de-risk that ahead of time. You make sure that you're 100% committed to it, as 100% as you can be in startup land, right? Because you can't go back from that. If we were to change our brand, I really am happy with our brand. Our team is really happy with our branding now. But if we were to change that and then say, oops, never mind, and go back to it, very few times does that work. That seems to work with HBO, but very few times does that actually work, because what that signals is, one, you probably don't know what the hell you're doing. And while most startups, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're figuring it out as we go. But it signals that you're not putting a lot of thought into things. And what that does is degrade trust between your customers, between your team, between your partners. And so, like, a brand change like that, in my opinion, once you go for it, you need to go for it.
The conviction.
You've got to be convicted in what you're doing. And there are a few things, I would say very few things, though, where that is a one-way door. Once you do it, you're done. It's either going to kill you or it's not. There are a few other things that kind of fall in that bucket too, but mostly, like I said, if we break something, we can fix it, right? We have systems, if we break something tech-wise, for example, we have systems that scream at us when something doesn't look right. When data comes through that is shaped wrong, or when even amounts that we're processing seem abnormal, our systems scream at our teams, right? As we onboard customers and it goes through the diligence process, if we break any of that, we have things that scream at us. The harder part to gauge is when we break something in terms of customer trust, or something that a customer was expecting. We have really amazing customers, and we have a very close relationship with all of them, and so they're open to telling us when something didn't make sense to them.
Yeah.
And that's good for now. But as we scale, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be like, they did this is stupid, I'm done, close my account, I'm going to a competitor, right? And so that's much harder to gauge, and so you have to be a little bit more careful. And as we scale, I'll have to be more careful and bring in more people that can check me and kind of keep me,
100%.
I have a huge risk tolerance. And as the business gets bigger, we need to have a smaller risk tolerance.
100%. And talking about scaling and growth, like, now you're GiveKit. Now you have a slightly different, starting position. Essentially, it's a donor focused tool that has all the kit around it. How do you go and market that? Is it still the unscalable stuff? Are you looking at doing some scalable things, in terms of ads, maybe some SEO,
Definitely.
email marketing, SMS, all of that?
One of the first times you and I spoke, I believe what I told you was marketing is not real. Marketing
sounds
is
about
fake.
right.
Something to that effect, right? And I still believe there's a lot of marketing that is just bullshit. 100%. However, as you scale, and what I've learned is what marketing changes depending on where you are and where you're going as a company, right?
Yes.
Are you super, super early where maybe marketing is fake and it is a distraction? Are you at that point where we are now, where you're scaling and you're like, wait, I can't talk to every single person that's going to buy from us, right? I can't be present in every single room. We need to start thinking about other things. And as we start doing that, social ads come up. Part of preparing for less fake marketing was cleaning up our message, right? Because when I would talk to customers before, we would talk to people, what's Nonprofits HQ? Oh, it's this unified management platform. Oh, okay, what is that? What does that do?
Yeah.
Well, it does this. It does all of that. Oh, that's interesting, right? And you get those kind of responses.
What is the pitch now? Can you give me the elevator pitch?
Yeah, so GiveKit is the complete fundraising toolkit for modern nonprofits. It includes all the tools you need to raise more effectively, and manage your organization all in one spot, right? It's a single point of entry. Most of our customers came for us looking for fundraising anyway. It cleans up the messaging. Everybody knows what fundraising is in the nonprofit space. Everybody knows what a CRM is. Everybody knows what all this other stuff is. But instead of trying to position our messaging around everything the platform does, we focus on the one thing our customers are looking for, right? And the other stuff is added in there.
Question to that is, how did you deal with competitors then? Did you go look at what the competitors were doing and then bringing that as a counter messaging, or were you really just listening to your customers and integrating that message?
So, I mean, it's kind of a combination, right? We do various market intelligence things now. We didn't earlier, but we do that now to keep an eye on, what's happening with our competitors, what they're doing, stuff that we need to care about, and reacting to that. But it's so the market is very saturated now, right? And most people in our space do kind of the same thing, right? In terms of messaging, in terms of whatever.
So only so many ways to sell fundraising in a CRM, just like HubSpot, Salesforce, they're all
exactly
one and the same.
Exactly. But what you end up doing, finding people like how companies are trying to differentiate themselves and stand out in the market, right? You have this concept of fee-free fundraising, right, where the donor tips pay for the transaction fees. Organizations love that model, but the challenge with that is the donors are paying way more in fees to donate to your organization, because they're not just paying for your transaction fees, they're paying for the next 5 people who don't cover transaction fees or don't tip, right? And so you might get a 15 to 20% increase on top of your donation that your donor pays for. There's ways you can do that, and changes like that are coming to GiveKit here pretty soon. There's ways you can do that without overextending or asking too much from your donors, without creating friction there, but also covering transaction fees for your customers, right? There's ways that you can do that where everybody wins. But so you find these differentiators where these companies are trying to stand out. One might buy a podcast network, and host a conference and do a bunch of stuff in there. Another one might host webinars to teach you how to do different stuff. Others, like us, might host workshops in with different partners in different parts of the country to teach organizations how to adopt new technology, how to clean up their processes, how to raise funds, things like that. We're partnering on a Google Ad Grants workshop soon, right? So there's all these differentiators, but if you zoom out and look, they're roughly the same, just in a different niche of the market.
It sounds like, and this seems like the play for most B2B SaaS is education.
Yep.
It is webinars, it is blogs, it is events, everything is there. Do you see there's a skew to, especially in the industry, towards events just because of the AI slop out there, or do you see any kind of trends even in the nonprofit space addressing that?
Towards events what do you mean?
As in, are there more real life events where people are talking because that blog post that everyone used to publish that was the top 10 features, is no longer worth it anymore? Is that skewing? Because I'm seeing in a lot of industries, the trend is private dinners, in-person hands-on workshops, and a lot of other spaces. Is that making it to the nonprofit space, or has that been a staple of the nonprofit space?
No, I think it definitely is. There's a lot more in-person, a lot more things like that, a lot more things around education and bringing people in for this added value, right, beyond just the tech. But I think, I don't know. So, GiveKit includes a full eventing, very robust eventing product, ticket tiers, sponsorship packages, all of this stuff in there. And we actually added that. That wasn't originally part of the plan to even be part of the platform. Events were maybe one customer said, yeah, we want to sell tickets. Can you give us a little form where we can sell tickets? We're like, okay, yeah, so we'll do that, right? And now it's blossomed into this entire, almost big enough to be a standalone product, right, around events. A friend jokes that we're the Eventbrite of nonprofits. But as different things, as different trends happen, as different things occur, everything went heavily online during the pandemic in the whole world, right? A lot of things have slowly come back and started coming back into these in-person things, but donors especially are looking for more ways to engage with the organization, right? If I go to your website and I give you $20, right? Okay, fine. I might give you $20, I might give you $50, but as donors want to engage more with your mission, what you're doing, I want to physically see what it is that you're working on, right? I want to be involved in things that you're doing, especially if, I'm a large benefactor for your organization. But this works because organizations are also looking for more ways to generate recurring revenue, predictable revenue. As grants have ended up in their interesting state, as politics change, as donors, individual contributors are maybe less likely to donate or donate less. Organizations need to figure out ways to fund what they're doing through all of these dry spells, more sustainable revenue. And so that usually results in a gala, in a 5K, in these physical events that bring people together, because it brings people together, it brings revenue, and it brings attention.
It's really interesting, and I'm seeing shifts all over the industries, even on the consumer side. I'm seeing a lot more in-person stuff happening. The event business is back, even more post-COVID. So just to kind of start to wrap, what I keep hearing is, build the product, do unscalable fake marketing, quote unquote, and then start to think about what that customer feedback, does it mean a name change? Does it mean, pivoting in some capacity? What would you tell anybody right now building a business on advice through the whole journey? And you've done it once, so I'm kind of interested to even kind of compare to that first one. I'm going to go put them side to side.
Definitely.
Just for fun.
Definitely. So my advice would be, one, you probably don't need to raise, especially if you're super early and just starting out. We are bootstrapped.
That's very counter.
We're going to stay bootstrapped.
Okay.
9 out of 10 times you don't need to raise. But if you have like hard tech or like greenfield stuff, maybe there's some high capital intensive things in the beginning, like, space tech and, things like that. But no, like you're going to get feedback is amazing. Advice is amazing. Mentors are amazing. People have already made mistakes, and you should be able to take advantage of those and not make those. Go out and make your own mistakes, right? Learn from other people's mistakes and save those costly lessons. But you're going to get a lot of conflicting opinions. You're going to get a lot of people that are experts in what you're doing and how you're doing it and everything about what you're doing, right? Yeah. And ultimately what you have to do is, one, don't close that off. Have conversations. Accept that input, right? But to filter the hell out of it, right? Take only what makes sense for you, how you're executing and where you want to go, and let the rest of the shit hit the floor. Otherwise, you're going to be running, and we see this constantly with founders. They're trying to, one mentor or one advisor told them that they need to do this, so they're doing that. Another one told them that they need to do it this way, so they're like, oh, well, I'll also do it this way, right? And you end up back and forth, going everywhere, not getting anything done. You are responsible for the successes or failures of your company. That is it. There is nobody else. You are responsible for those outcomes. And so your responsibility is to build that company in a sustainable way, to understand you don't know everything. You probably never will know everything in what you're doing, and to surround yourself with people that have complement your weaknesses, right? Talking to customers on group levels, high levels, I'm great at. Demoing our product, I am so bad at it. I am just so bad at it, right? Scheduling, if people no-show on me and I know things happen, right, I don't reschedule people. Whether I'm mentoring them,
I
whether...
still push back on that, but
you do,
but
yeah.
I like that there is a component of you understand who you are, and also you have a co-founder that also understands who you are, and essentially you guys know the strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
I love the idea of like, it's a high agency bias to doing and essentially filtering whatever you think it is and essentially collecting all the facts and making a decision whether it's right or wrong with so much conviction that it almost is forced to be right.
Absolutely. And if it is wrong, change it, right? Like I said, you're going to break stuff. You know how many things we messed up building this company? A lot, right? You're going to break stuff. But one, don't be set in that way. We're doing this, I decided this, we're going. No. Oh, we tried it, it didn't work, change it, right? Be open to that, learn quickly, and that's what matters, right? If you sit around and try to plan and create the perfect plan, you're never going to get anything done. Also, nothing ever goes according to plan. It
100%.
Never does.
Final part, where can they find you? I know it's GiveKit.org.
Yep.
But anywhere else, like
so
Twitters,
LinkedIn,
YouTubes?
LinkedIn, the Twitters, YouTube, Facebook, all GiveKit. You can find us there, givekit.org, and then you can reach out directly to me on LinkedIn or Zac at givekit.org as well.
All right. Really appreciate you joining the show, and hopefully we'll have you on soon when you've scaled a little bit and we can talk more about that marketing.
Let's talk again at 15 million ARR.
It's a deal.
All right.